first that we heard a lot is, what are you doing to stop President Trump from dismantling our federal government?
First off, obviously, I'm a member of the legislative branch. We have a lot of power, and there's powers that's reserved to other branches. Fundamentally, Congress has the power of the purse. We specify the programs that we will fund and the programs we won't fund, and we give specific instructions for what's to be done with those different pots of money. There have been violations, in my opinion, of the instructions we gave them. And this is an old fight. Back when I was, Richard Nixon had a big fight over impoundment, what he called impoundment. It's impoundment back then, and where he just refused to spend money that Congress allocated, and it was a big fight, and people realized that the Constitution wasn't absolutely clear on that. When Congress appropriates money and the executive branch says, we're not making it. And so what we did after that, what Congress did after that, is they set up a specific set of legislation that says the conditions under which the executive can refuse to spend money that Congress allocated, because there are times when that is legitimately necessary. If the conditions change so it's simply impossible to do a program, you obviously can't spend the money. And so there are conditions on that that are well prescribed. They give you a few months, it varies from situation to situation, but typically a few months where the president can refuse to spend money pretty much on any program, and then they've got to go back to Congress. And that's a system that was set up assuming that we would have someone of good faith always as president. And that's a problem. It occurs again and again. We have seen, we've seen so many instances where our system assumes that you'll have a competent and caring president with maybe somewhat different priorities, not someone who just wants to destroy everything. And so those are cases where you go to the third branch of government, the courts. And as I say, we're doing okay so far in those fights. They haven't gone all the way through the courts, but that's now in Congress we have limited ability. We, for example, in almost all situations, cannot initiate a lawsuit. It's sort of strange. I'm not a lawyer and I don't understand, but that's apparently well-established precedent that Congress, when we allocate money and it doesn't get spent, that we have to, that we can't just file a suit in court. We depend on third parties, and there have been no shortage of really competent third parties that have initiated over 100 suits, and so far have not lost a single one on merit. All right, and that's encouraging, but it's not the end of the line. And so, the enforcement, sure. That's a question. We've seen the edge of. Well, look, there's a long history here too. My dad wrote a lot of the enforcement language behind the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And for those of you who can tell the history of this, it was the Supreme Court decision of Brown versus Board of Education back in 1954, where the Supreme Court said very clearly you cannot have separate school systems for the separate races. And for a decade, Southern school districts and Southern federal judges sort of thumbed their nose at the Supreme Court. And so it has been a slowly hard-won victory that we have an understanding that when the Supreme Court says something, we follow it, period, full stop. And that's going to be tested, I'm afraid, in the coming weeks and years. And I have a lot of hope that Republicans who currently are fully supportive of all of this will draw the line at defying the Supreme Court. Who knows? If you look at, have a look at what Chief Justice Roberts said today. This was something where Trump had said, okay, that is a very good start, because Chief Justices seldom speak out in response to just a comment that's made on social media, okay? But that tells you that he has a red line. I disagree with Chief Justice Roberts on a lot of things, but he seems to have integrity and a real care for the democracy of the United States. So let's see. Anyway. So It's a coming fight, is the long answer to that.
Oh, let's get to